your experience as with this Kickstarter campaign that's kind of, in my opinion, gone awesomely, crazily perfect.
Taking
the way
off just a little.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, it's no 7C, but I mean, it's doing really well.
What I find interesting is, if you look, I was looking yesterday at like what you pulled in, and I think it was something like 50 people, like out of 1,400 givers or backers, like 50 people gave $5, 3 people gave $10, and everybody else was $20 or more.
Yeah, that was.
Which I found surprising. Look, compared to other Kickstarters, and you kind of have an idea like what drove people like automatically get to that bar of $20.
Well, first of all, I do have to give credit where credit is due. One of the reasons why I'm doing Pugmire through Pat Publishing is because the fact that I mentioned before, Rich Thomas has done 19 of these. This is his 20th, and he's learned so much about doing Kickstarter. And so, a lot of times I would go, Rich, I have this idea, and he'd be like, going, here's this reason why it's terrible, and why you should do this instead. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Let's do that. But one of the things that I was very passionate early on that he agreed with was having the early access available. Because I know I've been on a number of Kickstarters where I've been burned. And either it never happens, or the game's completely different from what I thought it was going to be. And now I'm in. It's like, it's already passed, my money's committed, and it's like, this isn't the game I wanted, or this game's never showing up. So one of the things that I thought was important was to have a game that was pretty much playable out of the box. It's very much inspired by the Steam model of, here's the game. It's not complete. It's not all there. It's going to have some bugs. It's got some slight rough edges, but you can play it. Right. And at least that's what you're putting money in. And so one thing I've seen a lot of is that people will back it like $5, then download the PDF. I'm guessing download the PDF. I don't see what happens, but they'll back $5, and then like a day or two later, it goes up. And I think it's because they're looking and go, oh, this is actually here, and it's not only can they play it and read it, and it's also for people at home. It's this is like this is art. I mean, this is not just a Word file. This has.
It looks pretty.
I think it's like 120 pages.
Yeah, I mean, and so I mean, we did a full layout as if this were a full product.
Yep.
And so people were looking at that, and so I was like, not only can I see the game, but also I see that this is close to done already. There's an amount of faith that's like, okay, this is a brand new game from at least one company people never heard of before. But there's some trust. Like, okay, this game's actually real. It's going to potentially happen and come out and be a real thing. And so I think that there's that kind of, I'm not sure about this. Oh, there's art and there's layout and it's edited and it's been tested. It's just missing a few chunks, and they spell out which chunks it's missing. It's very clear. Oh, but I'll go ahead and commit to that because I'm showing that we're very far along, and that's also, but still it's early enough that people can still get that excitement of chance to contribute to this brand new world. And certainly people have been very vocal, just extremely positive, but also with ideas. And a lot of them are like just kind of fun. I'm going to take my dog and I'm going to play my dog as a ratter and it's going to be awesome. And other people, it's like, no, I want to play wombats because I had a pet wombat once when I was 12 and that's not represented. I mean, so there's lots of enthusiasm,
right?
But also because people feel like they can actually make a stamp on this. They can. I mean, there's certainly the ability to direct and shift this in a way that's not possible for a completely done game. But it's not so early that people are just like, I don't even know what this is, to be able to even have a meaningful conversation.
Right.
I'm curious. You have a lot of stretch goals. Did you already have those set up when you started the Kickstarter?
We came up
oh my gosh.
No, we actually started off with 25 initially, and then in the back end we have a few more that have since come up that we're thinking about.
Okay.
But we came into this with a bit of a plan. Granted, I also thought we'd be at this point like about a week and a half before the end, not like a week and a half in. So it's definitely much faster than I expected. But in things like the fiction anthology, that was pretty much right off the bat we knew we were going to do. The cards was something that actually we were prototyping before the Kickstarter began.
The cards sound really cool.
Because I mean, I know like it's easier for me to kind of have all my powers on little cards. One thing I loved about 4th edition D&D that people deride it, but I think that I would like to they had the cards because it made it easier to kind of go, okay, well here's my thing. Like, I know what I'm doing. And having nice laminated cards, especially with drive-through cards and their print-on-demand services are fantastic to do high-quality stuff. So we knew that was pretty simple. And then the audio drama was something that I was particularly keen to do because When I'm not working on Pugsteady, I'm also the executive producer for a new company called Earplay. And their goal is to make interactive audio drama. And so over the past couple of years, I've gotten to know a lot of voice actors, a lot of audio people, and I know that I'm a huge fan of podcasts and companies like Big Finish that do audio drama. And there's a certain kind of a closeness you can get by doing audio drama, and it's also, from a new company standpoint, much cheaper to produce audio drama than like a cartoon or a video or something else. So it was a way to do something that felt like professional level drama in a new medium, science fiction, without spending a whole lot of cash to be able to do it. And also, I had access to some amazing talented people that I think could be very exciting for that.
Okay, stupid question, but what is audio drama?
Audio drama, as opposed to an audio book, where you have one narrator reading the entire book, audio drama is where each part is cast by a different actor, and they have sound effects in, and it's written and performed as if there's no narrator, or sometimes there's a little bit of narrator. So like the old radio plays, like old time, like Sherlock Holmes and Superman radio dramas. They've been really coming back recently with podcasting. And I mentioned Big Finish, but they have been doing Doctor Who based audio dramas for, I think, over a decade, 15 years now.
Wow.
So I mean, it's a way to kind of something that's close to like a television show, but it's all just purely audio.
Cool.
I've actually played an audio drama, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what the heck it was called. It was like a spy one.
Codename Cygnus?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Reactive Studio, which was the company that I became Earplay. So it's the same people. I actually backed that Kickstarter is how I met them, because I was like, this is really awesome, and they're like, okay, cool. Do you want to come on board? It's like, really? So, but that's exactly what we're trying to do. Is that the game talks to you and sets up a scenario, and then you talk back to it and say what you want to do. And one of the stretch goals that we announced right before this was doing exactly that for Pugmire as a possibility.
I, of course, was playing, excuse me, I was listening to the audio drama in places I wasn't supposed to be listening to things. I was supposed to be working, so I had to keep my auditory responses to a minimum and just had to tap the answer on my phone. I was like, go in the other room.
And we do have options.
What the hell is he talking about? And Craig makes a good point about the interaction. I was looking at like Craig says, I was looking at the Kickstarter comments and how much response there is from the makers of Pugmire, such as yourself, when people are asking you questions. Some Kickstarters you go on and who knows where the producers are or the publishers? We don't know. Or somebody asks a question, bam, there's an answer. You guys don't kid around.
Certainly, it's actually a huge, not huge team. It's 4 people, including myself, but I mean, it's a great team. It's me, Rich Thomas, Ian Watson's doing our social media, and then Rose Bailey is helping the logistics of it. And so having several people able to watch it and chip in has been immensely helpful for that kind of response. But I think on the flip side,
responses.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like real quick, like, yes, we're working on it. It actually has depth. It actually shows that you're all 4 of you guys are actually thinking about your responses before just slamming your hand against the keyboard going, there you go.
Yes, that is awesome.
Yes.
But on the flip side, one thing I have to say is, because we have 312 comments already, and I have been tangentially involved with other Kickstarters, not as a driving force, but as just like one of the writers or creators on a project. And just top to bottom, this has been one of the best communities so far. I mean, it's a brand new community, but everyone has been extremely enthusiastic. Everyone's been very supportive. There's been a couple of people who are very passionate about very specific subjects, but that no one's been cruel or mean. No one's been like, this is stupid, I hate this. There's been lots of, I really want this thing, and I'm very excited.
I really want my cats in the game.
That's a very big one. It's like, we want cats in the core game, and there's been lots of
new stretch goal, 200,000.
Huh?
200,000 stretch goal.
Well, I mean, we do have plans, but focus is on dogs.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm looking at the Kickstarter on the other computer real quick here, and basically y'all have already surpassed the 130,000 one.
Forever,
yeah. You're at 143, so it's not a far-fetched idea that your fiction anthology edition featuring Aaron Rosenberg is well within the realms of possibilities, which would all this. I think the thing is that not to be mean to a lot of the Kickstarter people out there, that run their own campaigns and whatnot. But to me, it seems like each one of your stretch goals has this unique and interesting aspect to it that drives people. It's not just, well, we're going to add one more character into the game that you get to interact with. And so you're kind of just like, well, what does that mean?
Right.
And is this a person I'm going to meet once? Is this going to be a party member? With the way that, your stretch goals are, you're adding to the anthology. You're adding cards. You have an audio drama. You're adding it to Roll20.
Mm.
I mean, it's a lot of stuff that a lot of people can quickly understand and grasp,
Right.
and understand really what that goal is actually accomplishing.
Right, and that was one of the things that when Rich and I brainstormed the initial stretch goals, one of the things we kept going is like, how does this improve the experience,
right.
or how does this grow the Pugmire brand? How does this make Pugmire available to people who can't play in this game? And so, but I mean, also sometimes it's just a chance to work with really cool people. I mean, like the you scroll past it, but the interactive audio drama.
Come on, Charlotte.
170,000. I'm getting a chance to work with Dave Grossman, and this is a guy who was one of the writers on Secret of Monkey Island. This is one of the guys who was instrumental in LucasArts and Telltale. He wrote for amazing games like The Wolf Among Us and Tales of the Borderlands. And he's interested in working on Pugmire on this, and so it's like I would love for a reason a chance to work with Dave. Aaron Rosenberg is a fantastic writer. He's worked on a number of Star Trek novels, a number of time novels for Eureka. He's a fantastic writer, and we've always every Gen Con it's like we should get together on a project, and now finally we have the chance. And so whenever it's like a chance to get these amazing things that enhance people's enjoyment of the world, because that's the other thing is a lot of Kickstarters I've seen where they misstep is that they make this amazing brand new world or this amazing new concept, and then the stretch goals don't really build more on the thing that's actually being sold.
Right.
Like with Pugmire, there's a lot of possibility for additional source book materials or adventures or whatnot, and I think we will get to those in the stretch goals. I think those are still viable, but people are coming to this because of the world. They're excited about the potential for the world, and so what a lot of stretch goals you see will expand the world. Here's more stories about the world. Here's a way to listen about the world. Here's a way to interact with the world in a different way besides the game. Here's cards that help you at the table to get to get the mechanics down faster, so you can get back to focusing on the game. There's more artwork to show you more details about the world. So a lot of these things are how can we make the experience at the table better, and then how can we make your enjoyment of the world deeper. And it seems to be working. It seems people are really gravitating to that. I get to learn more about this and try new things.
I think something's very important here. And we've talked many times on the podcast about Kickstarters, and what we've seen, especially in the video game side, is a Kickstarter, kind of in your case, they exceed expectations. Like, oh shit, we need stretch goals down.
Right.
And, now they're trying to come up with stretch goals, in a week, whereas you've obviously thought very far ahead about this. Okay, if we get to this, what's going to happen? Instead of flying by the seat of your pants. And that preparation going into a Kickstarter, really, what are we going to do when this happens? I think it's key here, and that's what's getting people really interested.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that it's unique about crowdfunding that a lot of other projects don't have to worry about is you have this weird confluence of marketing and budget. Because really what stretch goals are is in their form of marketing. It's like, there's this new thing that we want to get people excited about, so more people will donate money to it.
Right.
So it's you have to present things that people are excited about. But I've seen so many Kickstarters, like you mentioned, where they put these amazing stretch goals out and then they go bankrupt. Or they just can't fulfill them because they've overpromised so much.
Double Fine Adventures.
I wasn't going to mention any names.
Well, if anyone's watching, if anyone's attended any of our talks, because we do a panel called The Destruction of the Game Industry as We Know It, Double Fine Adventures is one that we definitely hit on every single time.
That's fair. But on the flip side, I mean, I will offer Harebrained Studios, I think, does a great job with this. With Shadowrun Returns, with Shadowrun Hong Kong, now with Battletech, is they bring very sustainable goals that are also very interesting in and of themselves. Like, we're going to add this additional mission and add this kind of content. We're going to focus on this character and give them, another run. Or we're going to focus on this mech and give more interesting components to that. And so they do a very good job of, like you say, planning out what they want to do and think things through. And so that's one of the things that we did with this was like, let's figure out everything we could possibly do and figuring out how that builds the core game in a way that's sustainable. Certainly I went into this thinking, okay, if we get $15,000 and that's all we do, great. I'll basically write the game myself. We'll get some art, we'll put the book out, and then it was fun. Let's do it again. But then I was like, okay, if we hit X number of stretch goals, I'm gonna have to start hiring people because I can't do this all myself. Because I've got my earplay work and my Futurama work and all this other stuff, so I don't have time. So, okay, I need to be able to hire other people, and how much is that going to cost me both in time as well as money? And how is that going to impact delivering the core product, the core Pugmire product?
Right.
So each of these is like going, I have to extend it in a way that makes sense. And so, like, for example, with the cats, you're going back to that, but
it's never going away.
I want the Monarchies Abound to be a separate, distinct game.
Okay.
I feel like there are so many cat fans. I've been owned by cats myself. I know that is the correct relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
And I feel like there's so much potential and depth for their game, and the rules should reflect that style of gameplay. In my head, I have ideas of like, where dogs, I have powers that give other people stuff. In cats, it's like, I give everyone stuff, but I give myself a little bit more, which kind of reflects that different dynamic a little bit.
Right.
And I think the rules need to actually change on a base level. I think the way it's compatible with the two games, but I think that how the powers work and how some of the things like fortune work need to reflect that different style of play and that different aesthetic, because the Monarchies of Mao are much more like a mix of Renaissance Italy and Prussia. It's very kind of a face culture, a little bit of Japan too. It's like honor and dignity, and it's about personal respect and dueling, and those kinds of elements. There's a little more, not player versus player, but certainly tension that is not present in the dog game. But the flip side, the cats, have a lot more options because they have those alliances and allegiances they can draw on, and they have this honor code. So all of that, I think, needs to be reflected in the mechanics. So it needs to be a distinct game. And so when people I think if we'd gone into this unplanned, it would have been very simple to go, oh sure, we'll throw in a cat source book, and that would have been end up being a disservice to that particular portion of the world. So by going to the plan and saying no, standing firm, we do want to do a complete step. Once this is all done, the dogs have had their day, as it were. We can then move on and do a separate, very cool thing about cats, and really get tons of great cat arts and focus on that and show lots of cat relationships and their dialogue and how their stories look, and maybe even do their own anthologies and their own audio drama if we go that route.
That'd make him a very happy man.
I never thought about that with the stretch goals. It's almost like the distinction of what adds on to the core game for stretch goals versus what's something you can do down the road to basically be like in addition to it. I think it's a very important distinction here, which makes a whole lot of sense that I would never, if I was thinking of doing Kickstarter, I would have never thought of that.
Well, and that's the advantage that I have of working with people who've done this for so long, is because Onyx Path has learned a ton from this. And also, I've learned a lot just watching my peers also, because it's not just Onyx Path. I've watched how Evil Hat does theirs and talked with their guys and how they put things together. I've talked with people like Binance Studios and how they do their Kickstarters. I've talked with some video game people and how they do their Kickstarters, and even just things like how the Pebble Watch did theirs, how Exploding Cats did theirs. These incredible Mystery Science Theater, I thought was a brilliant campaign because Joel came in with a very distinct plan. It was very obvious. It was upfront. It's like, here's exactly my plan, and here's exactly where all that money's going to, and here's why those stretch goals are the way they are. And they had some small ones in the middle, like, if we hit by this date, we'll do this extra thing, but they're all clearly sustainable. It was like, we'll give you an extra classic episode because he already has those resources available.
Right.
Or I'll reveal this information a little bit earlier than I would plan to, because either way the information's getting out. So he was very creative, making choices that he could sustain himself as a creator and as a producer, but still make people excited about the campaign itself, because it is an event. The other part that people miss, I think, is that a lot of people look at Kickstarter like a bank loan.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, in 30 days I get cash and make stuff. But it's an event. It's a chance to build a community, or ideally increase an existing community.
Right.
And get them excited about the thing. And so, again, we're back to that. It's both marketing and budgeting and production. And you have to kind of balance those two. And the only way you can really do it is either make the mistakes, or to look at people who have made those mistakes and go, okay, why did this not work? Why did this work? So being an active part of Kickstarter, I think, is a big part of doing a successful Kickstarter.